Hey there, good evening. It's Pastor Randall. Thank you for joining us for our midweek Bible study. We're here at Osceola Baptist Church. Hopefully, we'll be able to get our Bible study back in church very soon. Looking forward to that. I'd love to get everything moving back in that direction, but we'll certainly be careful in doing that. Right now, I would like to share with you just a couple of verses out of the book of Colossians. I'm not going to ask you to turn there. I'm just going to share these verses with you and a little bit about what's on my heart. In Colossians chapter 1, beginning in verse 15, the Apostle Paul is writing this letter to the church at Colossae, and he's referring to Jesus, and he says, "He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence." As we think about those verses, the main thing that comes out to me is verse 18, that in all things he might have the preeminence. What does that mean? That means that our focus is to be on Christ, not on what's going on in this world. Now, I am a very proud American citizen. I'm glad and I'm very thankful. I thank God every day that he allowed me to be born and to live in this wonderful country of ours. For as long as I can remember, I've been in awe of the fact that out of all the places in the world, God has placed me here. Now, there are a lot of things about this country that I don't like, and one of those things is the fact that we seem to be moving away from the religious liberty that this country has afforded to it, both in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights. There's been a lot of changes that have been taking place, and those things are things that are always, in the forefront of my mind. However, as the past 12 months have unfolded, we've had more and more opportunities to consider what's going on and to consider this thing called fighting for our rights. That's something that I've spent a whole lot of time thinking about. What exactly are we supposed to be doing as a church? Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, has given us the ability to be able to contact those that we, the people, have elected and placed into office. And I would encourage you to do that. I personally have been calling and emailing the congressmen and the senators specifically with regard to this so-called Equality Act that is anything but offering equality. This is taking away from what God has ordained as far as two sexes, man and woman, about marriage, which is between one man and one woman. All of those things are trying to be destroyed, and that's included in this particular act. And I would encourage you to write and to call and to email your state senate, your elected officials, and let them know that you stand against that. In the scriptures, the Apostle Paul took advantage of that opportunity. In Acts chapter 5, he and some of the other apostles were arrested. They were put into prison. They were let out by an angel of the Lord. They were released and told to go and to preach the gospel. And then they were arrested again. And they were told, "I told you not to preach the gospel." In Acts chapter 5, in verse 29, the Apostle Peter with the other apostles said, "We ought to obey God rather than men." And that's certainly the stance that we as Christians should take. Now, here's the question. How far are we supposed to go as Christians as far as standing up for our rights. Well, it's my belief that the Bible teaches that we take a stand where man's law comes in direct conflict with God's law. And that's the line that cannot be crossed. The New Testament, from beginning to end, is full of instructions about how Christians are supposed to live when we're being persecuted. And Jesus made no bones about it. He says, you will be persecuted. He said, they came after me, they came after the prophets, they're going to come after you. And we see that in the New Testament, but never once do we see that they were told to take up arms and fight against the government. As a matter of fact, we understand the Bible as it is literally given to us, that we are going to face persecution, and it's going to wax worse and worse in the latter days. So I just want to encourage you to stay focused on keeping Christ preeminent in all that you do. You know, I'm talking a lot to myself in these messages. You know, God is working on me as well. You know, there are times that I just want to jump up and down and yell and scream and shake people and try to get them to wake up about what's happening in the world. But the most important thing that we can ever do is preach Jesus. He's the only thing that's going to help in this world. You know, I don't want to have on my gravestone, he was a great patriot. You know, that's wonderful. I'm not saying anything against that, but I would prefer that my legacy be he was passionate about Jesus and spreading the gospel. So what are you passionate about today? People are passionate about a whole lot of things, but we need to stay focused on doing what God has called us to do. We need to understand that he, in all things, must have preeminence. The Apostle Paul had that as his focus throughout the New Testament, that Jesus would be glorified in all that he did. Is that your goal today, or are you looking after personal things? You know, we might suffer persecution, but through that persecution, we must glorify the Father and the one who gave his life for us. Thank you for listening. I'm Pastor Randall from Osceola Baptist Church.